You ever had a dreams that that you do?
My goal for the next 2 years is to make a video on every single League of Legends champion. These aren't going to be normal guides, however. I don't have the experience to give you in-depth knowledge on mechanics and matchups, especially when I'm talking about champions that I have little to no experience with. And I also don't have the time to get all of the numbers and statistics to really help you. So instead of trying to copy someone else, I'm basically just going to tell you what I like and don't like about every champion in League of Legends. Basically, a champion critique. League changes so much that guides have to be updated almost every season, and I just don't have time to do that. But something that doesn't change in League are the champions, at least for the most part. Although champions get tweaked throughout the years, their core identity stays the same, and that's what I want to focus on. I want to focus on and critique the timeless identity of each champion so that you can gain some valuable information when you jump into your matches. Today, I want to talk about a champion near and dear to my heart, Yasuo. Now, Yasuo is a very weird champion. Some people hate him, some people love him, and it's hard to find a League player who doesn't have a strong opinion about him either way. I personally think that over the last 2 years, Riot has done a great job of balancing him, and I think he's just a run-of-the-mill average mid and top laner who can also be flexed to the bot lane, but we're not going to really talk about that. I played over 1,250 games of Yasuo over the last 6 years, and I think I figured out a couple of reasons why people either hate him or love him. Let's start with why people love Yasuo, because this is definitely a lot easier to find out. He's just really strong. Regardless of how strong he is in the current meta, he has been insanely strong since he was released. Lately, Riot has been releasing most of the new champions with busted numbers so that they can increase sales on these champions and RP so that they can increase the revenue. But I'm no one to judge, Riot's got to make their money somehow, but Yasuo was broken on release, and for the next following seasons, there were so many nerfs and buffs that kind of bounced him in and out of the meta. But that was more due to public perception, when in reality, he was really strong for like 3 years straight. His kit is just super loaded with a lot of damage and mobility. He's great in a 1v1, but can also shine in a team fight, and he doesn't really have a lot of weaknesses. His loaded kit is one of the reasons he has been strong for so long, but I think the thing that solidified him as an iconic champion among 148 others is that he has such a high skill ceiling with crazy mechanics and, most importantly, a flashy playstyle. We talked about this in the Kha'Zix video, but I think having a flashy playstyle with a lot of outplay potential can really draw players to a certain champion. There are so many Yasuo montages on YouTube, and when you watch them, you really get a taste of what his true potential is. This has created a very dedicated and loyal group of Yasuo mains, me being one of them. Although it has been harder and harder for me to get him in Champ Select because of everybody banning him, especially in low elo on my Smurf, but we'll talk about that in a second. A reason that I personally love Yasuo is that you can 1v5 a fight and single-handedly carry your team to victory. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't attempt to do this every game or every fight, but just knowing that I have the possibility gives me this feeling of elitism. Now, elitism is probably not the right word to use in this situation, but it is basically a rush of sheer competitiveness where you feel like you are the best and the game is yours to lose. I'm a very competitive person by nature, so Yasuo brings the most out of me in game. The sheer carrying potential along with his decent utility when he isn't that strong has made me fall in love with this champion. But just because I like him does not mean that other people do as well. There are many players that love Yasuo, but an equal number that also hate him. A while back, I saw Mo post this meme, and for a lot of people, this resonates. The feeling of having a hyper carry on your team feed is the absolute worst. When the only thing that they offer a team is damage and they fail to deal any, can make the game feel hopeless and solidify a belief that a teammate on Yasuo is the worst outcome for a ranked game. And I can't say I totally disagree. There have been a lot of games where I have completely destroyed the other team, and plenty where I've also gone 1-11 and told my team to wait while I scale up. Sometimes when you get behind on Yasuo, there is nothing that you can do to stop dying because his kit isn't necessarily defensive. The opposite feeling can also cause you to hate Yasuo. When he gets ahead, he is basically a god mode cheat code, and there's nothing that you can do to stop him. I've played with Mo, also known as Yasuo, and other high elo Yasuo mains before, and if they get any sort of lead, it's pretty much game over, and then I start thinking about permabanning my own main in my future games. The last reason I think people hate Yasuo is because they've all faced one that has dominated them in lane. Sometimes I look back at what Yasuo used to be a couple of years ago, and I can't believe how broken he was compared to his current state now. He was so oppressive in lane, especially back when he had 10 seconds to hold onto his tornado and when his shield procced for a longer duration. Even on the other side of these nerfs, when we have our current version of Yasuo, we see that his kit is just as oppressive in the early game. He doesn't have to build any AD, and he can still chunk you with a Q and a couple of autos during the laning phase. Paired with his ability to shove waves without worrying about any mana makes him a lethal weapon in the hands of a good player. I think that it would be dishonest to not talk about how slippery Yasuo is. If there are minions around him, he can just infinitely dash around and get out of any situation. He can cause his enemies to continue to miss their skill shots while charging up his Q and waiting for his team to come save him. There are videos of pro players in the LCS just running away from the enemy because they just keep dashing through minions. Okay, at this point, you probably know what side you're on when it comes to Yasuo. You either love him or you hate him, and for the few people out there who are indifferent, you're probably going to choose a side before you stop playing this game because it just happens. But before you click off the video, I want to look at a couple of key things that I personally like and don't like about Yasuo. Just to keep the negative train going, we're going to talk about what I don't like. Now, I don't want to sound like a baby rager when I'm saying this, but I don't like how Yasuo can't dash over walls. I know that his kit is already super overloaded, and I'm not talking about dashing through minions to get to the other side of a wall or jungle camps, which we will talk about in a second, just hang on. But I wish he just had a good old one-time use dash that allowed him to travel a short distance. The reason I wish that he had this is because Yasuo's kryptonite is point and click CC. He might have a wind wall that can block projectile CC, which this ability breaks all of the time. It's had bugs for years, so sometimes if something gets through, it's probably just a bug. You probably played it just fine, but Riot still hasn't figured out how to fix or completely fix his wind wall. If you ever see a Yasuo in champ select and are wondering how to counter him, pick champions that have reliable stuns. Now, these stuns can't be projectile for obvious reasons. Champions like Renekton, Kiana, Leona, they're great against Yasuo because they can set up ganks and team fights to shut down the annoying Yasuo on the other team. Now, just in a second, we're going to transition to the stuff that I like about Yasuo. But one thing that I want to touch on before we get there is that his items are just super expensive. If you look at Bloodthirster and IE, you just realize how much gold it really takes to get full build on Yasuo. Sometimes you just don't have the gold to buy the items that you need in order to positively help your team win the game. This means that you're going to have to spend a lot of time really focusing on CS and making sure that you take fights that you know you can win. All right, that's it. That's literally all of the stuff that I could think about when I was trying to figure out what I don't like about Yasuo. And now on to the stuff that you've been waiting for. Here's the good stuff. I love learning new tricks on Yasuo. There are so many popular combos like the Keyblade, the Beyblade, and a lot of others that I've probably never heard of before. These make learning a champion like Yasuo so much fun. It kind of goes back to what I was talking about early with the flashy playstyle. His unique ultimate paired with stacking his Q allows for some really cool moves as well. This being said, that does not mean that using these cool moves all the time makes sense and is beneficial to you or your team. I've gotten myself in a lot of trouble if I've tried to EQ flash and fail. There's probably a clip right on the screen right now of me doing it and just dying to tower. It looked cool, it was awesome. I caught the enemy off guard, but I died in the end. So in reality, it didn't help my team that much. I just kind of look like an idiot who just inted by flashing blindly into the enemy team. But the times that I really pull off a sick combo, I feel like I should be instantly promoted to Masters, and I can't get this dumb grin off my face for the rest of the game. On a more serious note about Yasuo's viability and scaling, I just love how good he is throughout the game. I know I just mentioned that his items are very expensive, but in most situations, you won't have a problem getting that gold. He has a strong early game that sets him up for good gold and experience lead, but if somehow you can't capitalize on this, he can easily go split push in a side lane and scale up. Yasuo's items are really expensive. Thankfully, he can just CS super easily in a lane because of his push potential and also his Q reset. But just a tip, if your bot lane is winning and they go mid, just go bot and farm. You can freeze the wave if you can at your tier 2 tower, but if your team is getting a lot of pressure on the enemy, then feel free to push out either side waves repeatedly with help from your static shiv. And the next thing you know, you have 200 plus CS with 3 full completed items, and now you have the damage and the items to really help your team. When it comes to team fights, Yasuo is really good. I don't recommend diving 1v5 during fights like I know a lot of people do, but I would start by peeling your ADC, and then you can start diving the backline. Team fights are just much easier with Yasuo's ultimate, especially if one of your teammates has a knockup. If one of them gets a good knockup with a couple of opponents, then by all means take it and add that 1 more second of crowd control and damage to the fight. One of my favorite little quirks about Yasuo that I just personally love and just gives me a lot of joy when it's pulled off, that a lot of low elo players might not know, is his interaction with jungle camps. He has the cool ability of jumping over walls using these camps. He can do it on all of the camps except blue and red. This makes it a lot easier to slip away from enemies in the jungle and also surprise unexpected laners. There have been times when I sit next to Gromp waiting for the enemy ADC to show up. I'll E through Gromp and then I'll just kill the ADC. I've caused a couple ADCs to AFK from this method alone. And so if you want to try it, go ahead. There's my little tip. So most of you know that Conquer is pretty broken on a lot of champions right now. If you're watching this in the future, this is not going to be an updated rune page for you. So go ahead and look at u.gg, op.gg, look at what the pros are using, just copy them and put that. But for now, I've been using Conqueror with Domination in the second tree. I'll throw it up on the screen right now. And for items, all you need to know is that you should rush Berserker Greaves, get Static Shiv first. Sometimes you can get PD in like occasional situations, but normally I just go Static Shiv all the way. But after you get those 3 items, you really have a lot of freedom to do whatever you want. I've gone Ma in occasions, I've gone Frozen Mallet, GA, BT. Anything after those items is purely dependent on the game that you're in. If you're going against some heavy AP burst, then by all means buy Ma Malmortius, or even just start with a Hex Drinker at the beginning of the game and then finish it as your 6th item. Frozen Mallet is also a great item for split pushing. So if you like having a little bit more durability, health, and also apply a slow, go ahead and get that. I think GA is crucial on Yasuo, especially for those late game team fights. When you dive in with your ultimate, it just has the extra ability to either deter damage, or when you do soak up a lot of damage, you can just revive. GA is just a great item right now for all AD champions, so go ahead and grab that. And Bloodthirster is one that I personally love using that I don't see a lot of other people buy. It has great lifesteal, so it's great for dueling in the side lanes in 1v1s and split pushing. It also does a lot of damage, so you can one-shot the ADC out of your ult with that Q auto and just kind of finish up the game. Guys, that is it for this Yasuo video. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see my thoughts on other champions, go check out the 2 videos I have on the screen. And as always, this has been Snowday, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.